everybody. Great to see you. It is Thursday, 4 o'clock. You just heard the bell ring, didn't you? And we just had a grand entrance by Pookie. I thought I was going to be going it alone, and just at the last minute, Pookie was there. How you doing, Pookie?
Doing good, doing good. Yeah, it was a close one. I'll give you that. But I
You
made
just
it.
wanted to get my juices flowing. I
That's
liked
right.
it. It worked.
All right, there you go. That's all we need then. A little stimulation.
Pookie is a friend of mine and a fellow trader, and I say that comically. He's in a whole nother league. Pookie is a excellent charter. I really like having on board, and we're going to have him do all the charting today. I'll talk about the stocks, but we're going to let you do the charting if that's okay.
Yeah, I'll take it on.
Yeah, I bet. I'll try not to take the best ones. Actually, you're going to do them all. All right, let's get that news running here. Give you all a chance to see what's been going on for the last 10 days at the most. Right here, this is all OTC news. There's been a lot of news in the last couple of days. If you have a thing for mining, tech, biotechs, I mean, there's a lot of money in biotechs right now. I really should not be ignoring it, but got to be honest, just reading through the news presses is hard enough. And when I really get excited about it and have to share one with you, I've almost got to take a mini class just to learn how to explain them to you. But I don't put a lot of that news in here, to the point. So you're getting a lot of news here of mergers, acquisitions, uplistings, bankruptcies, dividends, all the juicy stuff. So, later on, if you're listening to me and Pookie talk and didn't read it and you missed it, it's here recorded for you later. So how's your week been going so far this week, Pookie?
Pretty good. It's a little turbulence in the market, and that's okay. That's what I like. I just wait for it to show some volatility, and then I trade that, and I'm out. So it's been pretty good.
Right. Yeah. Choppy waters. You don't get a lot. You don't make it to the beach on any one wave. Just surf what you can. The OTC's been really showing signs of more depression. We are now hitting new lows we have not seen since we started falling. We're hitting new lows, and it's showing. I mean, there's just not a lot of volume amongst 12,000 stocks to justify good news across the board. So there's a lot of stocks that are getting great news but just aren't moving. Huge news and just aren't moving. It's sad. I mean, it's a buyer's market if you've got patience and you don't mind your money sitting around for a while. But who knows how long a while is really going to be.
I know. I know how long it's going to be.
Oh, you heard it first here. I'm all ears. How long is it? Oh, this is going to be one of those trick answers. How long is it going to be, Pookie?
It's going to be a long while. Longer than you want it to be, because, your money's going to be sitting there.
How long is a string? Yeah. There's always an answer. It's just not the answer you were thinking of.
Yeah. Well, that's an important point, though, is we can't control these things. So the important role that we have to take is we have to be one of those little fish that swims along with the bigger sharks, right? We don't control the market. We can control our risk exposure, but until they decide it's time for that volume to come back in, we can't do anything other than sit there. So if you're okay with that and you don't mind having your capital sit there, even though it's a very good opportunity, you just have to make that personal decision on, do you want your money now so you can do other stuff with it, or potentially lose it now? Or are you okay letting it sit there and letting it grow? And
right. This is a perfect long investors market. I mean, if you're shopping around for long-term investments, God, I mean, this is worse than Christmas. There's just too much to shop. There's too many deals to look at. All right. That is the news one time through. That is really all we need. So I only have one stock that I was asked to look at. I don't even think he actually asked me to look at it. I can't remember who exactly it was again, Stonehenge, or I can't remember, but he had brought the stock up as if he wanted to talk about it. So he thought it only fair. And then we've got a couple already in the queue here. Hey, good to see everybody in the queue there. How you doing, Mike Seppi? Of course, Velmore was here early. She always gets the best seat in the house. I see some new names here. Navid Bakshi. Hey, don't don't take it personal if I don't get it right, folks. Not everybody's name is as easy as CC. How you doing, CC? All right, let's get the heck out of here. All right. HVCW, Harrison Vickers Waterman. They were on everybody's charts a while ago. They were in the midst of doing a merger with Pacific Energy Network. That was back in August of last year, right? And they did the deal. It went through, and they projected 150 million in revenues for the coming year. Well, I do believe I got one of those up here, which is a big deal because as you can see, there's 2022, 2021. They got nothing on the books, nothing. So to tell us they're going to have 150 million this year, something's got to give real quick here. The other thing was, let me see what we got. They're now doing business as Modern Pro Solutions. It's the same company, but after the merger, things just got switched around. They're now working with artificial intelligence and installation partnerships. Right now, everybody who's smart, is working with artificial intelligence. And it is going to be the beginning and the end of us. I swear to God. AI, you think we've had a technological boom here in the last 10 years? You ain't seen nothing. Now that AI is involved, manufacturers aren't going to be able to keep up with the changes, the new innovations that they just keep coming up with. Corporate restructuring plan, didn't jump into that, but that's always good to read. The big news right now is that they've terminated a public offer, which is good news to nil effect, really. They've already got a humongous float of 9.6 billion, and they've got 25 billion. So there's quite a lot of shares they could be putting on the market. And you sell shares so that the company can have working capital. So something's up. They don't need to get the money from the little investors. Maybe they've got something coming in from a big investor. You can normally see a 13G or a 13A filing will tell you of a new investor that came in, a new partner. I don't see any of those here for a long time. All I do see are a lot of 1As. These are, I do believe these are putting shares on the market, aren't they? I think they are.
Yeah, usually. Yep.
Yeah. So I think they've already been dumping shares on the market for a while. We don't need any more shares. So it is good news they're not putting any more shares. I'd look into this. This just came out at the beginning of February. I'd see where this is leading to, this partnership here. So that's all I can see going on. They've got a ton of shares. They've got no revenues, but they say they're going to be doing 150 million in the next year. So something's got to be up, and they didn't need our money. That's good news. That's like, just starting to see dry land when you're in the water. So let's take a look at that chart, Pookie. I love seeing your charts.
All right. Sorry about that. I couldn't find the unmute button. All right,
we need to have you here more often. Get you accustomed to these buttons.
Yeah, it's so foreign to me. Yeah. So
yeah,
as you can see here, there's really not a lot of useful information here on these lower time frames,
right?
Because there's no volume. Yeah, it's just kind of, the algos are just kind of bouncing it around. There's nothing we can do with this. So even looking at the daily chart, right, that's just a mess. You can kind of see stuff, but it's very difficult to get any. Yeah,
there's no real trend.
Yeah, there's ranges, but that's about it.
So, right, lots of ranges.
Yep. So again, that tells us, right, if we're not going to be able to play that pop on that catalyst, it's going to be a long time if we put any money into this, and that's okay, right? Some people like it, some people don't. But what I do see here is a big resistance trend line right here. Hopefully, you guys can see that okay on stream. I made it.
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay,
looks good.
Yep. So this needs to be broken, and all this is telling us is we've got a nice flat support level right here. So we're kind of in this channel. Once these things tend to break, there's usually a little retest, and then they have potential to skyrocket if they break. But we're not going to look just at, it could make money. I could get a Lambo. We got to look at the reasonable trade and the distance between A and Z there. We're going to look at point B. So immediately we have this distribution gap right here. If this breaks, retest and push up, it could go up to 0.0008. If it can conquer that, retest and push up, if the volume is strong and sustains, you could see potentially up to 14.15 00. And then beyond that, you've got serious shareholders territory right here. Again, not a whole lot of volume, but this, I believe this one's pretty heavily diluted as well. So it's kind of hard to separate that. So we don't really know unless we look at the volume for these, but I'm looking right here at this volume indicator here. This is hundreds of millions of shares. So it's very difficult to ignore the fact that all these people or institutions have bought shares here and they're just waiting to break even or reduce their loss. So every time you reapproach a level like this with that kind of volatility and sustained width like that, it's going to be tough to push through that. Think of it like trying to throw a baseball through water, right? As soon as it hits the water, it's going fast. It's going to slow down real quick. This is the water. Yeah. That's all I see, though. A lot of good short-term potential if it can get that volume and that drive. But other than that, it's the real trade is probably right here, not so much up here until you get enough significance behind it.
Okay, I think we can jump into the next one here. And I do believe that comes right off of our list. I think that comes from Velmore. Velmore wanted me to look at SMKG. SMKG. All right. SMKG. So you got an idea of what the company does. The company provides business intelligence, AI, digital transformation strategies, and they're involved in everything digitally. NFT minting, crypto, blockchain, chatbot IT. I mean, again, everybody's involved in AI. So they're involved in everything digital. Well, this is their most recent piece of news. And they're doing something I've not heard of before. Everything is as a service now. This is banking as a service. And what they're trying to do is create the banking experience online without actually having banks, anywhere. It would be an international thing so that cross borders, it's going to integrate all these wallets with all of their holdings, their cryptos, whatever the heck they're holding, and we'll be able to use it. So they're breaking new territory here with this. And this did just come out. I think it was today. Yeah, that just came out today. Outside of that in the news, no, I don't see anything that's jumping out at me. So this is something new. I didn't jump into it anymore. I don't know if they have any deals with anybody. They've got a plan, but I don't know where it's going right now. Share structure on SMKG. Presuming it's accurate, we're roughly, let's just call it 150 million or down. But they've got a lot of shares authorized and they pretty much have tapped them out. There's not left much to put on the market at this point. Financials for the company. This is always something that's important down here at this level of trading. They're doing about $500,000 and it's got to be digital products because there's no overhead. They're not paying anything. They're getting to keep all the money right there. Quarterly, looking at 22, they're paying the bills. They're doing about $125,000 every 3 months. So they're paying the bills. They're paying themselves. They've got that taken care of. Anything in the filings that jumps out at us, a lot of shares going on the market. They tap themselves out. All these S1s are shares on the market, aren't they, Pookie?
In most cases, yeah. That's an amendment to an S1 filing. So they're usually used for registering. They could also just pre-register an offering. I did see a notice of effect in there, January 31st.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're putting out something. Yeah. So they affected one of the S1s there.
Yeah, that's just a gun shooting in the air right there.
Yeah.
They're going. And that's all I see here is just shares going on the market. So we've got nothing going on there. So that's everything that's happening here. She's obviously got something new she's diving into. I haven't followed this company. We look at it every now and then. I don't know if they've been mainlining in the same direction or if this company's done a change of operations. So many are doing that now. I'm getting tired of that. You never know what you're going to get stuck with if you're holding the stock when you do a change of operations. I had a cannabis company go into selling jewelry on eBay. They made more money on eBay than they were doing in cannabis, but nobody's interested in that as an investment. So what the hell? All right, let's take a look at SMKG. Price is down there. You're probably not getting a whole lot of activity on that chart either.
No. So again, this is one we, let me just turn this off because it's a little cluttery here when stuff goes sideways and it's consolidated like that. So I could really only find one level that was worth anything.
Yeah, the floor. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Trading,
So
you know, apologizing to the viewer because you never know. This could be something they're holding and you don't want to offend it. We're giving you an honest opinion. That's all we're doing.
Yeah. Sorry. So it doesn't mean it's a bad investment at all. It just means it's a really hard to read chart. So with that in mind, you're not going to see a lot of speculative traders looking at stuff like that with a lot of confidence. So that's kind of why it's important to look at the chart from that side of it. But if we look at the weekly chart, we can see that is a good, strong, sustained level. 0.0391, so just under the 4-cent range. You can see it's tested repeatedly and historically. It's held pretty significantly for a while. But there's also a lot of potential on this thing when it does get the volume and that surge of attention that we like. You can see there's a history of this many times over the past couple of years. Every time it hasn't held profits, so that kind of tells us how to trade it. But yeah, it's got a lot of volatility. 2021 into summer of 2022, so that year was a lot of choppiness, a lot of volatility. Right now we're in that period of kind of ebb and flow, so those catalysts are what's going to drive that when it comes back, and this is definitely one worth watching in my opinion. I do like it. The only kind of red flags I guess I would pay attention to is that float compilation there. You've got twice as many restricted shares as you have in the free float, and they're tapped out as far as their authorized limit's concerned. Authorized limit, of course, just being the maximum number of shares that a company can ever issue legally, I should say.
Yeah. On the OTC market, you need to put that footnote in there.
Yeah. So it just kind of limits the options that this company is going to have in the future if they need to do something that'll affect their float. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, I like it as a good close watch. But
Fair enough.
It's the catalysts that matter on that one.
Catalysts, that's what we live on down here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're like crawfish and lobster. We're waiting for something to hit the floor.
That's perfect.
Okay. Mike Seepy, good to see you, guy. Yes, I do have your Hub C here, Hub Cybersecurity. Let's see if we got a description over here. Hub Security was built by veterans of 8200 intelligent units of the Israel Defense Focus. Ooh, the company specializes in unique cybersecurity. Share structure on this one, well, we don't know exactly what it is, but it's under 109 million shares for the float, 109 million outstanding, and we don't know how many they have authorized. They just don't list us here, and I don't know why. Probably because the company's from Israel. Yeah, you get international companies that can be spotty with information here, but the information will be in their own country if you can get it. What do we got for financials for Hub C? Nothing for 2022 on the annual and nothing coming in right now. That's not a good sign. And they're on the NASDAQ, for goodness sake. You'd expect them to have some revenues. What sort of disclosures we got over here? 15, 12, 25, 8. There's an 8K. That's not too long ago, a couple days. Mount Rainier acquisition. Mount Rainier. Yeah. Is this Hub? How did we end up in Mount Rainier's news?
I was going to ask you if that's a Israeli company. That would be a 6K, right?
Pardon?
If they're an Israeli, are they based in Israel?
Yeah, they're based in Israel.
Oh, that should be a 6K then, right?
I don't know why they don't have an F on the back of it, which is for foreign, anything foreign.
Oh, they're headquartered in New York City. That's why.
Okay. All right. Yeah. A lot of these companies get a headquarter or work out of the British Virgin Islands or some neutral ground, Switzerland, something like that. But for some reason, and I'm sure there's a reason here, Hub Cybersecurity right here. All right. So they've got a business combination going on with this SPAC. You know what? Now it's all coming back to me. Sure. Mount Rainier acquisition, the SPAC, $10, can't move. We've been playing the warrant here. They are in the midst of doing this merger, bringing this company out of their, and that's a little interesting now, isn't it? Because isn't Hub on the NASDAQ already? So the Hub's on the NASDAQ, but they're coming into a SPAC. Now, I do know that when you come into a SPAC, the new company coming in gets paid a lot of money. That's one of the whole reasons you do a SPAC. Not only is it cheaper and faster to get a ticker, even though they've already got one, what they probably need is money for build out. Now, I haven't done any research on this company. I don't know what the heck is going on, But whatever they've got in Reiner, which was what was the ticker on that one? RNER. Let's see here real quick. Looking at the SPAC itself, it's gone. Okay, so I'll bet you this has been it's changed over now. This is the new ticker. That's why we can't find Reiner. That's why the news is sitting there, because it used to be. It's all coming together now. So they have come off of being a stock that can't be traded. Now, holy cow. Was this $10? Pookie, are we looking at a stock that was $10 and fell down to $1.25?
I believe so. Oh no, sorry. Here I have it listed at $4.90 for their IPO price.
This was originally ticker RNER, and now they are HUBC. The SPAC has changed its name and ticker. I'm following with all the news and the filings here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their last price was $5.61 that I see for RNER. They've had much higher highs, up to $17. They IPO'd, or at least their high for IPO day was $10.99 on January 4th.
You go ahead and show us that that chart then, because
sure. So here's RNER. Obviously, there's some business over here, which we can't really read. Yeah, so they had a very brief window of activity here in the last month and, well, I guess 2 months, right? Not very promising. A lot of pops and drops, and well, not a lot, but there's 3 significant ones, and then a really hard gap down, and it's just been very suppressed. I do like the chart for HUBC better, but RNER, this is a really good one for trading pullbacks and impulses, in my opinion. So if you're somebody who uses fibs, for example, you got a lot of good opportunities here to trade this to the upside very quickly, just getting in and out. Obviously, it's lower volume here, so you've got 50 to 80K shares for your maximums, and then maybe down to 3K or 2K, 1K even for your slower hours. So you got to be very careful with these if you're going to trade these intraday, but they do seem to have pretty respectable levels that they like to revisit. Really, really popular head and shoulders right here. You can see this is kind of a recurring theme on this one. So I would just be very careful personally. Doesn't seem too terrible though.
Now you're looking at the SPAC Rainer right now?
I was, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And let's take a look at HUBC.
Okay, I like that one better.
Good. We like it better than 2.
Yeah, so HUBC only has 2 candles on the daily chart, so that tells me right there I can't use a high time frame to identify long-term support and resistances. It's brand new. There's just not enough information. What I can do, however, is look at like the 15-minute, the 5-minute, the 1-minute, and just identify those areas of volatility within that pocket, right? So if I look at the 15-minute chart, that's the one here on the bottom, you can see that we had our support form right here. It pulled back up. We know that 9 times out of 10, when we see a strong impulse to the downside or upside, we see a 25% pullback about 90% of the time. That satisfied that, and then we see that H-shaped continuation that we see 75% of the time. And then there's typically like a 2 or 3 day rule that we like to just give it time to breathe, let it find its bottom, and then when it starts to pull back up, we can start to identify opportunities, but we don't want to rush and chase something that's falling. So if I look a little bit closer, you can see there's a nice little channel here that's formed with very well respected levels, which is good, but we don't want to trade a downtrend, right? But looking at this on the RSI here, you can see on the 15-minute, we do have bullish RSI classic divergence right here, which is where we get a lower low on the momentum oscillator into a higher low, I'm sorry. And then on the chart, the price action, we get a higher low followed into a lower low. And what that means is basically it's just saying the downtrend is showing weakness. It's not a guarantee of a reversal, but it is an opportunity. So a lot of traders like to wait till the RSI pops over 50, but in the PB, we know that's a lie. So don't just do that blindly. But it does tell us that we're in a potential area of value, which is why I kind of like this chart. I'm just going to turn the RSI off because we've gotten value from it. What I see here is a series of lower highs, lower lows. There's really nothing we can do about that. And if we draw a line,
we wish good.
Yeah. So if we draw a line in the middle of this channel here, that tells us where the tipping point is for a healthy risk reward. So obviously we want to take entries below the line if we're trading to the upside. And if we're going to short it, we want to take our entries above the line because we want to have our stop loss closer than our targets, in that case. That way, if it goes against us, we can stop out earlier, save some money. But what I see here is lower highs, lower lows until we get to right in this area. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase that line. What I see here is an inverted head and shoulders, very, very short time frame. It's 5 minutes, and this is whatever, maybe like an hour worth of data. So it's very short term, but it tells us
it works.
We're heading into potential reversal, and we have confluence on these lower time frames telling us that this might actually happen. Okay. Might is not a good reason to justify an investment, but it is a good idea to start watching at that point. So ideally what I'd like to see is some confirmation here. We do start to see the higher high, higher low setup that we like to watch after we see lower lows, lower highs. That is indicative of a trend reversal. We've got RSI confluence. We've got a nice tight channel here. So basically all it has to do, I need to click on the right button here. So what I would like to see is something like that. Okay. And when that happens, again, all these people here are going to be in shakeout territory, but they've just bought. So they're not going to be as hostile when the price comes back up here. They're going to be more hopeful, more willing to hold, and less likely to sell. So
good sense.
Yeah. So I would start to worry around this price and potentially around the upper level of this area. So maybe in the mid $1 range up to just under $2. I'd say that's pretty reasonable. But again, we always want to wait for confirmation. It's always safer. So I'd personally like to wait until this channel is violated and then it's confirmed to the upside rather than just trying to get in now and hope it works.
There you go, folks. You've got a plan now. All right, let's take a look at another one on the list here. This comes from Graph Duke 82. He follows me in a lot of places, and I sure appreciate that. He wants to take a look at iQuest. iQuest has been around for a while. She's hot every now and then. She's cold every now and then. I haven't kept up with her. Last time I remember being personally involved, she was making a deal with Ally, A-L-Y-I. This is a company making electric motorcycles, so they've been saying for quite a while. But they are invested in them. They are working with them. Let's see what sort of share structure iQuest has here. It's respectable, 153 million, which is about half of their authorized shares. That's friendly. Financials for the company. They're making money and it seems to be growing. 18, 44, 64 million. It's millions, not thousands. We got to add zeros to anything here. Quarterly current money, they're averaging about 20 million every quarter. So they're not doing bad. Let's see what disclosures we got over here. We got an S1. I did take a look at that one. This one actually did tell us that they're doing a 15 million offering here. And there's details. Some of these offerings come from insiders. Some come from the authorized. If that matters to you, you can get that there. We got a couple 8Ks here. Submission of matters of vote security holders. You know, you can see if it's going to be something you're really interested in. Everything's important, but you're only looking for certain things. I did find something. Where did I find that? There it is. This was the next 8K down. iQuest confirms $105 million 2023 revenue forecast. Now, what was the revenues? They were pretty decent, but not nearly that high. There we go. 64 as of 2021. And what were they going to end up with this year? 2060, maybe near 90 if things are going the way they are. And they say they're going to hit 105, and they have plans. Now, everybody says this, but they say they have plans of uplisting to the NASDAQ, EV rebranding, and a new fintech product on the horizon. Haven't gone through the information, but it sounds interesting to me. And when did this come out? January 24th. So that's not too long ago. It's fresh. That is fresh news. And I don't think there's anything else here we really need to take a look at, except the chart. She looks good over here. She's on the top tier. That's the most trustworthy tier. That's the most transparent. Whatever information there is about the company, they got to give it to you here. A QX could be on the major exchange. That's how much information they give us. Plus, they got every green tick over here, not to mention they're penny stock exempt. Remember, folks, that's reassurance. That means they're not a startup company. They're not risky. They've been in business for 3 to 5 years and have had millions of dollars of assets during that time, and they've kept up with their financials. down here on the OTC, all of that is bloody well important. So this looks really, really good in that respect. How does that chart look for this? Is it catching any heat here recently?
Not so much recently. There is some ebb and flow in the volume. So you can see here I have the daily on top, weekly on the bottom, because again, there's just not enough information on the lower time frames. I'm going to check one thing really quick. Okay, so this one is healthier in my opinion as far as the float composition. There's not as much restricted shares here. There's about what's that, 4 million shares out of 140 outstanding. That's pretty good in my opinion. That's less surprise that they can throw at you. They can't just drop an offering and surprise,
Right.
As well as this company, or this chart, I should say, has a good history of nice progressive run-ups and progressive sell-offs. They're relatively quick, but they're not as quick as those pop and drops that we've identified quite a few of. So what I do see again on this chart, and it's just going to be a common theme for a lot of stocks, is you have these progressively lower highs, kind of leading into this this triangle here, which is fine, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that there's no profit potential, but it's going to be much harder to break out above this resistance trend line. But when it does, the value of the company, the potential, and more importantly, the interest of speculators and the algos that want to try to exploit them has potential, especially since this is a relatively moderate float, has potential to run this up pretty high as we've seen in the past. So I actually like this one. But again, I'm just going to wait until I see a confirmation. I do see a pretty decent area right here between 42.17 and 76.07. Plenty of room to gallop if it can break that. But we just got to be a little bit patient and watch those catalysts. That's what drives them.
You don't work a whole lot with the OTC stocks. You're more of the major exchange, all sorts, small caps, big blue chip stocks, right?
Yep. I'll trade the impulse all day.
Yeah, the major exchange stocks. I mean, this is what you're looking at right there. That is predominantly the type of charts we have on the OTC. It's just been that kind of market. It's been bloody hard on the OTC. Do you see a lot of this on the major exchanges as well?
Yeah, specifically in the last 2 years, a lot of these smaller cap stocks have devolved into exactly this. Some go up, some go down, but they rarely consolidate and then don't go anywhere. The ones that do are typically ones that are below $1. The higher risk ones, maybe they can't do an offering. So if a company is kind of pinched into that zone and they can't do a reverse split, then they might just sit sideways. It's a lack of attention until that run up into the date, though, and then there's a huge run and then a huge sell off most of the time. But the ones that the ones that have that potential, though, they tend to do pretty well. They just blast right up, or if they have a bad earnings or something, or even a good earnings and they get the wrong kind of attention, they might just blast as hard to the downside. This company has more upside potential, in my opinion, but we'll have to wait and see. All right. This is a good watch list, though. I like it.
Next one we have on the list is another H'er. We've got HADV. This is Health Advance. They are into health and wellness. From what I can see, they are focused on the CBD sector of all of this. Their share structure, don't know exactly what it is. Maybe when we look at the chart, he has more information. Over here, all we get is 185 million outstanding, which isn't very much considering that they've got $500 million. So they've got stuff in the bank, and they can put those on the market, dilute our shares, but they can also use them as currency. When they're making deals with other companies, rather than give them cash, they can give them shares in the company. So this can be used for that as well. So it's not such a bad thing to think about. Financials for this company. How's the CBD market doing? It's actually doing well, but there's just so many CBD companies. They're not making any money here that I can see. Taking a quick look at their balance sheet, seeing if they got their head above water. $265,000 total assets, total liabilities, $160,000. Startup company doesn't seem to be getting very far right now. Anything in our SEC filings? No, she hasn't done anything. Now, I like to think of filings as the company actively doing something. They may be doing business, but you don't see filings for years. They haven't had any changes, any material changes, management changes. And sometimes a lack of change just is a lack of motivation as far as I'm concerned. I do like to see some filings here. We haven't had any here in a while, except again, just their financials and some shares being put out. Yeah, these are quite old back there. Outside of that, let's see what we got for news. Is anything down at the bottom? No, the most recent news. Now, I don't mind lingering news, looking for something that happened 3 months ago that they're going to close right now. So don't think old news is worthless news. CBD wine beverage ramp up, getting closer for health advance. Well, that's a ramp up there. You know, they're obviously waiting to launch something here. The one thing I see we've got over there is that she is on the Pink Limited. That is a concern. It's a major concern. Announced on August 24th. I'm just scanning here for any other dates real quick. I don't see any dates of launch or anything like that. What I do want to check is the financials. She is Pink Limited. That means that she is late on one or more of her financial filings. If she's late too long, they'll yank her off of the OTC market, and that's bloody serious, folks. If you're invested in the company, you're in limbo. Your investment is locked up. Well, not totally. They'll let you sell. But for some reason, the marketers and brokers who are allowed to trade it, us investors, we're not allowed to trade it when it's on that expert market. They shred the price. If it's at 2 cents, I guarantee you it's going at least down to 0002. At least it can get 5 zeros on it while it's down there, and it'll come back on the market, and then you'll have access to your stock the way you want it. And normally when it comes off the expert market, it'll surge. It'll come back on at 0002, and it'll go back to its normal price, because that's the mindset of value for it. And that's when you get this huge 20,000% run off of a stock coming off the expert market, because it's just going back home. Whatever the distance is, that's what you get in your pocket. Let me see here, 1231. Well, that seems pretty close. When did they put that in? Well, they put that in about a month ago. That's a quarterly. They're not going to need an attorney letter. You only need those for an annual. Looks to me like they're caught up. I mean, they've got it in. It just hasn't happened yet. So this should drop off. I don't see any other problem here. Does the chart have anything going on there?
Let's take a look. So
This is one of them depressors.
Yeah, this is the daily chart. That's just Morse code. There's not a whole lot.
You got to bring us some stocks that are hot. I bring you stocks that are hot every day. You got to do your fair part. If you're just bringing me stocks you're invested in that are depressed and you're hoping I find some light for you, look, I know I call myself a wizard, but honestly, I got no magic here. Just because I might see something, that doesn't mean anything. That's why I like to have a second person on board. So honestly, bring me some stocks you're saying, God, can we make some money on this? Pookie might say, folks, you found a diamond in the rough. This is where you want to get in. So bring us something that's hot every now and then. I'll look at the ones you want me to, whatever they are. But it would be nice to look at something that is inspiring. Okay, Pookie. Sorry about that.
I like the last two we looked at. All right. So so this is the daily chart. There's really not, again, it's like looking at a picture, right? We can't see the picture clearly if we just see sloppy brush strokes, right? There's nothing really, we have to back out and look at a higher time frame. So this is the weekly chart. We could even look up at the monthly. I don't really see a whole lot in the way of movement here. Until we get some sort of big volume surge, which is a catalyst, of course. So I like this area here. This is a big distribution gap or momentum gap. So I like that between 0.240 and 0.507, roughly. Those are ranges. But it needs to get out of this area first. And it's been kind of sitting. Most of the participation here is in the lower half until you get, of course, those big surges of volume from a catalyst. So I would say I would probably watch it in this area personally and just trade the momentum when that volume comes in. Otherwise, this, could be very, very slow.
Yeah, and being on the OTC, waiting for volume is a struggle because it's like having an island of 1,000 people and only enough water for 100. It's really a drought right now. This next stock, I really don't want to talk about the stock. I would just have you jump right into this chart. You may prefer this chart. You may even know this chart, Pookie.
Okay.
Every single morning, this thing's at the top of the scan list for the most volume. Doesn't mean it's climbing. I'm not saying the absolute most, but it's in the top 10. This is XELA.
Oh, yeah, XELA. Yeah, so this one, I actually traded this quite a bit, and it was very good to us.
I knew you would. Anything with volume and liquidity is predictable to some degree.
Oh, yeah. Look at all these big runs, this choppiness that we had. We just have to be careful when you trade stuff like this for the volatility. A couple general guidelines, of course. I can't legally tell you what to do, but what I like to do is I like to wait until it's already starting to move up off of a good support level with confluence, ideally, and immediately set a stop loss. And this right here is why, right? We had this back in March 2021. It was a huge run, ran up nicely, beautifully. A lot of people made money. They locked profits on the way up. It was picture perfect. And a lot of people bought in here at the top thinking it was going to go even higher, never set a stop loss, ended up all the way down here. So they lost half of their investment overnight. And we don't like to see that happen.
No.
I wonder if I actually have some. Oh, I don't have any lines left on this one. But you can see
For
I
your
was
old
looking at it.
plays?
What's that?
Looking for your old play lines.
Yeah, I must have erased them, but I was looking right here.
If you play it a lot, it can get pretty congested. Lily has got some hellacious. She doesn't remove any of her lines.
Yeah. So if you look at the lower time frame here, the 1 hour, there's actually this nice little wedge / pennant setup here. Without volume, it's meaningless. But if we do get volume, there is some pretty good potential going into tomorrow, which it's a Friday. So you got to be careful about that. But
Friday's a slow day. Half the people play golf.
Yeah, but if you look at this, you can see most of these big jumps here are after hours, and that's just suckers getting filled at the wrong prices. So be careful not to do that. If you do, that's great. If you know how to take advantage of it, there are certain traders that do exploit the bid ask, but that's a gamble, right? So we don't want to do that. We don't want to rely on that, but there is some pretty good jump potential there if you can do it. The last time I looked at this was back in January. I was watching the support line here for a fail, and we identified a retest and then a fail. I didn't take a short entry like I intended to. I just got busy with other stuff. But if I were to trade this, you just have to know how to play both directions. You can make a lot of money. You can trade it on the way up, trade it on the way down.
Yeah, I think trading it on the way down, you're talking about shorting it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know how many of us short. I never talk about shorting because, well, I've never shorted. So why talk to you about it? You know, the guy at the bar can tell you how to make $1 million, but I'd rather he show me.
Yeah, fair enough. Actually, let's look at this on the 15-minute here. So yeah, this is pretty clean. I like this.
Oh yeah, look at that. Like it was made for it.
Yeah. So there is.
Oh,
I do
like a
like
breakout point, isn't it?
It's getting there. I would probably keep an eye on it. I don't think they have any catalyst right now, so I'm not really sure what's justifying this. But I would definitely keep an eye on it. I would say maybe if you're very cautious, you can watch it like a hawk. Maybe around 74 cents might be a good entry with a very, very tight stop. Of course, you're after hours, so stop losses don't trigger because they're based on market price. So it's going to have to be a manual stop out if you do trade that. Otherwise,
as a matter of fact, Pookie, they do have catalyst today. They got news that came out. They announced new funding amendment increases existing securitization facility to $185 million.
Nice. That was this morning, though, right?
Yeah, this morning.
Yeah. Okay. So I probably watched this. Oh, go ahead.
Hopefully there's something left over, but I'm telling you, everything is very short-lived right now. The profit takers don't let anything sit on the table very long. And that's what you get with this company. She bounces a lot up and down.
Yeah, well, we know the history of this company, right? It moves up, it moves right back down. So if we see continuation, maybe tomorrow into like morning, midday, there might be a really good opportunity for an intraday trade. I wouldn't really trust it too long for continuation, especially probably not in the next week. But there might be some good intraday volatility options. You just have to be careful with those stop losses, given the history and the behavior of the stock. I just highlighted this down here. The volume going into the end of the day should have been ramping up. We typically like to see that for continuation.
Yeah.
The volume on this is just weak. It's super weak. There's really good order sizes. Yeah. Do you see the order book here? If you're someone who's into level 2, they are stacked bullish so far, which is good, but you're really going to want to watch those walls and just be careful. I see this a lot with stocks that are like this, where they have bigger numbers on the volume. If you see 200,000 share size right here, you might be used to trading a smaller liquidity. So if you see like 29,000 right here, 10,000 here, they might seem a lot bigger than they are. You have to keep in context of the float. So these are medium size orders, maybe even small orders. They're not really as big as what you'd see during market hours. Because if you look at this hour right here, 51 million shares in a 15-minute period, 25K doesn't mean anything. So if you see these big numbers,
yeah, that's the thing about the aftermarket. It's like
yeah.
everything you think and use and do during market hours, that's all out the window. It's the wild, wild west over there. Just a few thousand shares can make that price run. And you're looking at your SMAs going, well, what the hell was that good for? So technicals, no, not during aftermarket hours. I think your bar chart reading and volume reading is much more accurate than any technicals.
Absolutely. And again, it's just very important. Don't get caught up in the number sizes only, especially with a stock that did 51 million shares in 15-minute period. Because this might seem like a lot
for you. She's a volume hog, boy.
Yeah. I like it though. I like the stock.
Yeah, because she's got ups and downs and liquidity. I mean, that's like a river that constantly has fish in the bend.
Oh yeah.
You always know where to go to fish if you get bored or hungry.
Yeah. So one thing I would also like to point out really quick, and then I'll turn it back over to you. The majority of this participation here in this shape here is on the bearish support line. So please be careful with that. We see this a lot. We saw it with AMC. You get the majority of the participation to the downside. Then when this support level breaks, it's typically a hard sell-off. For a bullish breakout, we typically want to see the majority of the participation up here on the resistance trend line. And all we see up here is wicks. That's rejection. So if it can blast through this, great. But don't anticipate and get yourself hurt. That's all.
Yeah, I would think, using the Fibonacci from that surge, I would think that she's held everything. I mean, she came down. She did hit about the 50% point and bounced up, which is, that's a perfect play of the day. It's exactly what you would think it was going to do. So to me, she's running on projection. She does need to be watched, but watched for both an opportunity that is lying waiting or not. But she's at that point.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's one of the worst things we can do, especially as day traders, is to try to anticipate. Rather just wait till stuff starts to happen and you'll have a much better time.
Yeah, Amy, we have a fantastic trader, Amma Jamma. Amy, she can read charts. And her secret, she's told us, her secret is that she waits for those confirmations. She doesn't look for the biggest gain. She looks for the least riskiest gain. So when we see something, we're saying, oh, I'm getting in now. She says, no, I'm going to wait until it does just a little bit more and shows me its true colors. And she gives away insurance. That's what she's, she knows. And it's like, she does very, very well. Greed really stifles our trading. It really does. Fear of missing out one way or the other. It's the worst thing we've got in all of us. A plan that says, doesn't matter what you feel, doesn't matter what you think, follow your plan and you're going to succeed. And regardless of what happens after your plan, even if it goes on, congratulate yourself. You succeeded. And if you can always succeed, your portfolio is going to grow. It's going to grow fast, consistently. And that's what you need in any market, is just to find the gain, not the home run. Just the gain, and consistently pulling gains, small or large. You go to a casino, do you throw away a small gain on a slot machine? No, you take them all. That's what you got to do in trading. That's kind of why the market is right now. Everybody's taking their gains because it's very choppy. Every wave is falling quick.
And you said the perfect word there. It's consistency, right? Because a lot of people, they get good at technical analysis. They get very good at finding entries, and they plateau because they can't grow their account. Because their losses are taking their profits away. So if you're not consistent with your habits, note-taking, studying yourself, technical analysis, and position sizing, and your take profits and your stop losses, one loss could wipe out 3 weeks worth of gains, and you're going to feel very frustrated about that. So we don't want to see that happen. So it's just as important to know how to get out as it is to know how to get in.
Oh, God, yeah. I think getting in isn't so difficult. I mean, you may make a boo-boo and not get in right, but that's not where the pain comes from. It's that exit. Boy, you step off in the wrong plateau and ouch. So yeah, the exit, I think, is what's all important, what you sell for. And if you're just going for the ceiling, good luck. I hope you brought a parachute. All right. How about we jump into that next one here? We are running out of time. What do we got? Oh, NVOS. This comes from Jimmy Jean Baptized. Let's see. Novo. Okay, this is involved in primary healthcare assessment and diagnostic treatment for pain management. They're Advanced Therapeutics Rehabilitative Service Company. And their share structure 139,000 outstanding, 113 million. This is always guesswork here. Don't go thinking this is gospel here. But somewhere around 100, 120 million. They're on the NASDAQ, so we're even not even on the OTC, so we don't have to worry about that. Sorry about that. Income 9.3 million at the end of 2021. For 2022, oh, well, it's starting to grow pretty quickly here, isn't it? Jump from 3 and 2 million up to 13 million in 1 quarter. Something's happening here. Absolutely is. Let's check out that news to see what's happening before I look at any filings. That's old news. That's from 2021. Don't get tricked there. It happens to me. I do due diligence and then realize, oh God. Uh-oh. Doon. These are both on the same day. I can't look at Seeking Alpha. They want me to pay them. They got a notification from the NASDAQ here. It's probably not going to be good. Do I see a minimum bid price requirement? Oh, God. Just got to scan. They've done something wrong here. Not in compliance with NASDAQ's continued listing requirements under failure to file a timely annual report. Oh, for God's sake. I don't normally see that on the NASDAQ. They're late filing. It's not minimum bid price requirement because, well, that could be next. They're at 13 cents. And we'll find out by looking at the chart. But if they've been under $1 for 6 months, they're in hot water anyways. But at 6 months, they're threatened to be kicked off the exchange. So I don't see any dates here. I don't see that anything is going on right now, but they've gotten a warning. However, what was that second one?
They got
notice
60 days.
Receipt. They got a receipt here. Another one. Well, this looks like a second warning, which isn't good. Let's take a look at their disclosures. I avoided them, and that's exactly what all the news is about, what they're missing over here. Well, there you go. That's their, goodness gracious, that can't be right. Down here. Okay, this is their old filings back when they were still using disclosures. Here we've got their 10Qs and 10Ks. They put in a not 10Q. I call that not NT because it means they're not filing their quarterly report or their annual. They would normally give you an excuse in there, a reason, and that'll buy them 5 days on a quarterly, 15 days on an annual. And then they've got to get them in or they're in trouble. Well, that went in on the 17th of January, and they didn't get them in here. We got a lot of 8Ks, and I have no clue what each one of these is. And it could be helping the business, but it's not helping their, in addition to shares, it's got something to do with their shares. Unless they're making deals, it isn't going to help. They need to get that filing out ASAP. Here's the continued listing. These are the 8Ks coming out from those news presses. So they are in trouble. And their financials are good. Share structure isn't bad, but they've got to get the price up. I'm sure that's in trouble. How does that chart look? How long have they been under $1?
Yeah, let's take a look at that. So I have the daily down here and the 2 hour on top. So this one's got a little more information. It's a little more frequency and liquidity. So we can get a little more information out of the lower time frames. Last time they were around $1 was back in October. I think that was in the filing there for the minimum bid requirement. Yeah, it's not good. So they have 180 days from the day they receive the compliance, the MBR compliance letter, and then they have 60 days from that date to submit a plan to the exchange to regain compliance, whether that involves potential reverse split or selling assets, whatever they have to do. Basically, there's a couple different cards they can play. But their chart right here is what I like to call a broken foot setup. And the reason I say that is if you look at this,
look at you.
And then you look at that, you can see here's the little toes, and it's a very familiar pattern that we like to play. The reason that we like these is first off here, it's in a compressing I don't really want to call this a wedge, but it's compressing over time, right? The volatility is decreasing in this linear plane. We have plenty of volatility here. So if you're someone who likes to play channels, you have this nice, beautiful range you could play support and resistance off of. Obviously, you draw the line halfway through and you can play the greater than one risk reward in whatever direction you prefer.
Right.
But ultimately, this line right here and this line right here are really what's compressing that price or containing it like an envelope. It has to break out of that before it can go anywhere. Now, part of not being above $1 was this gap to the downside. That might be interesting if it can survive long enough.
What day did that fall on? Can you see the actual date so I can look at it while you're doing this?
Yeah, it was October 13th into the 14th. So the 14th was the day it gapped down.
14th. So let's see what hit him upside the head that day.
That, yeah, I don't know. Let's go ahead and look at your screen for that.
Oh, no, I was going to look at it, but you're doing that. I'll just throw it out there.
Right.
Yeah, don't you mind me none. I get bored sitting here without talking. So
I hear you. Yeah, so there is still a lot of good opportunity in this. Just, I hate to say it, but not right now, right? We know that the most dangerous time to enter a trade for a breakout of compressing price is before it breaks out, right? So the real trade opportunities are going to be above this bullish confluence, or I'm sorry, bearish confluence. Or if you're short, it's going to be below here. And this is something that we actually walked through on the chat channel here in the Discord with Spy today on the, I believe it was a 1 minute chart. I watched a lot of people get trapped because they didn't wait for confirmation. They anticipated, you could see the volume come in. They thought it was going to be puts because it failed the support line. There was no confirmation and it shot right back up. You could hear their screams in the night air. It was terrible. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's very enticing to want to get into these because of the potential that it could go up. It could go down really fast. We don't know that, and we're not going to buy scratch offs, right? So it's always going to be safer. There's plenty of room to the upside if they announce a good catalyst, which the likelihood of that just depends on the company. For now, the trade opportunities are going to be in this channel, which is now compressing below the pre-existing channel. So you're not going to see those highs at that line that I've drawn here or the lows at this line. It's going to be a tighter channel, so it's going to be less opportunistic. So what I'd like to see is a break, a retest, and then a run, personally. But of course, we can't control that. So we have to plan for everything. This is the favorable outcome. But I'm not even going to look for an entry until it's right about there.
Yeah, right. Double confirmation. Exactly. Yep. That's the way Amy plays it. Don't just get in because it went over at once. Wait for that bounce. Wait for it to make sure. You know, it's like when you jump onto a new floor, you just don't walk on it. We all have a tendency to bounce on it a couple of times before we walk on it. We want to make sure it's strong. Well, the charts do the same thing. They bounce on it a couple of times and then, okay, boink.
Absolutely. You just want to make sure, right? You don't want to be the first guy that just runs across the field and starts swinging a sword. You want to wait for everyone to be running across the field.
Oh, yeah. I want everybody in front of me.
I want to live, tell the story, put my own little twist on it.
All right. Can you jump into DVLP while you're there right now? Sure, he says DVLP is just crazy. What's that chart looking like?
That looks crazy.
This is confirmation.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows crazy with a name like Pookie, come on.
This one, obviously, it's heavily diluted. It's 1.27 billion shares outstanding, 953 million. So the difference between those is how you get the restricted shares. So it's about 25% restricted, a little less. Not the end of the world, but I'd rather look into those and make sure they're part of like employee packages and stuff rather than just private sales and things like that that'll get you in trouble. So there is a nice little distribution gap right here. You can see this just looking at the behavior of the stock. It's got a history of those pops and drops. So this one, you'd be a little cautious if you don't trade these impulses. Just be careful. If you do trade them, obviously use your stop losses or just manage your risk to the best of your ability. I'd really like to see it in this range personally. There is some support down here, but there's not really a lot of volume. Most of the volume in this thing is above both of these channels. And that's where you see the bulk of that volatility. So down here, it's like just a waiting zone, right? You could buy some, you could anticipate a break, but again, there's no reason to expose yourself to risk unless you have to, or unless you think it's healthy. So if you want to trade these inner channels, you can. Otherwise, I personally, if it were me, I would like to see, the same kind of thing. We just want to see this clear break, clear retest, and then a clear decision after that. Otherwise, you're in sketchy territory, I guess. A lot of people are probably going to buy this and hold, thinking it's going to go back up here. It may, but it's also down at 0029. So it's really there's just better opportunities out there, is what I'm trying to say for now.
All right, we're just going to run over a couple minutes. I see I've only missed one stock today, and we ain't going to miss it. I don't like to miss anything. We've got a request here from Sand Tribe. Thank you, Sand Tribe. I like seeing you here, pal. He wants us to take a look at LHDX.
Yes.
He says it made a great move today.
Yeah. So do you want to go ahead and tackle the company side of this?
No, since you've got that, I can see the news here. It was just a couple of days ago. They announced FDA authorization of the first and only at-home combination COVID-19 and flu test kit. And they're talking about bankruptcy.
Yes. So we've seen a lot in the biotech space of companies applying for COVID patents, applying for funding specifically for COVID under the umbrella of COVID, and then completely using that money for other stuff. I know a guy who works for a company that did it specifically. It's a great way for a company to raise quick cash. COVID is not quite as hot as it used to be. It's more of a social inconvenience at this point from many people's perspectives. I'm not going to offer an opinion, obviously, but that's kind of the
hey,
view of a lot of these
right here, my friend. We're not holding back.
Yeah. Well, that's how a lot of companies are going to view that stuff, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So in the context of the market, it's not as urgent as it was when people were being hospitalized. Right. Yeah. So
right.
So overall, this company is struggling. There was a lot of volatility, a lot of choppiness, but you can see even back in the day, you got these peaks and then just hard sell off, peak, hard sell off, peaks, hard sell. So it can't hold profits very well. Every time it's had a good run up, it's just gone down lower. Even this sustained, this is a beautiful range of volatility here. Of course, it's on lowish volume, so you got to be careful about that. But even that, it just couldn't sustain. Once that support line failed, it just fell hard. Didn't really stop until there.
Yeah, hard.
Big pop, sell off, big pop. So we're in the kind of the back end of this impulse here. So this company thrives. I'm just looking at the chart here. I'm going to assume it thrives on catalysts, and then it just doesn't know how to lock in those profits other than through things probably like offerings, which we don't want to see. This is one that Amy traded quite a bit, and I believe Lee traded as well in the Discord. But what I see here is missed opportunity, and that's okay, right? It's okay to let things go. It's okay to look back and study them. We don't necessarily want to chase. So if I look down at the 15-minute on this one, we're kind of back in that area, but there's really not a whole lot that we can do about it right now. A lot of the opportunity, similar to the other one we just looked at here, there's a little wedge breakout. This consolidated pretty heavily and then eventually did release to the upside. It just, you kind of had to be there for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and if she's going to have any catalysts now, it's going to be one of those oxymoron jumps because I'm reading the news. They have filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of these companies do that just to restructure their debt. It doesn't mean they're going anywhere. They just got to rebuild from the inside out and keep business going while they're going through it and then get cleaned up. But I don't know. So at this point, things could get worse before they get better.
Yeah. And one other thing right here that I'd like to just point out is I actually have a chart that I can demonstrate this on really, really quick. I don't want to hijack the stream. But if we look at like ANY on the daily chart, you can see this guy's got a history of doing this, right? It compresses, compresses, compresses. We know that high volatility is followed by low volatility. We had high volatility here after this run up towards the top. Yeah. This was contention, right? They had the consolidation here. This is indecision. It's people not knowing if this is going to continue. A decision was made the following morning, blasted, got a lot of volatility, a lot of people buying, taking profit, selling, taking profit, a lot of fighting back and forth. There's still a lot of indecision here. It's just they're throwing haymakers at each other. The volatility is pretty much gone at this point. We went in a whole day here without a lot of volatility. We had maybe market open and then a little pop here when SPY kind of blasted. If this happens, you typically see a good break, a pullback, and then a run, and then a sustained uptrend. This company does not have that kind of behavior, in my opinion. So I really don't see that happening, but there might be a bit of a FOMO rally tomorrow. Knowing it's Friday, they're probably going to let it happen just so they can trap people. So if you want to try to trade that volatility, you can, but I would be very, very careful personally. I'm not going to touch it. There's going to be much better opportunities in my opinion, but I do see the enticement here of this setup. You're at a support level here, had a huge run. People are going to FOMO this thinking it's a good rally.
It does look tempting.
Yep. So I would just be careful. That's all. I can't tell you not to trade it, and I can't tell you to trade it, but I can tell you to at least try to be careful.
Wear your thickest boots. The bear traps will be out, folks.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't want to get pinched.
Well, that does it for us. We're at 5:05. I hope we used your 65 minutes wisely. Don't forget all that news in the beginning. You may have missed some of it. There's about 10 days worth there, folks. Lots of news that I've been just putting over their headlines. So if you haven't been able to keep up with the news, that's a good Cliff Notes sort of way to do it. You got anything to add here, Pookie? Any last thoughts for our viewers, the traders out there for Friday or next week or next year?
I do, but it'll be a 4-hour stream. So I think I'll digress.
You know what, folks? Come on over to Discord and you can get more of Pookie. Pookie does a lot of streaming over there, a lot of discussion, a lot of charting. We've got lots of people, Amy, and oh my God, we've got a group of rascals over there who are serious about trading and serious about being a part of a community. So that's why we put these out, so that you can see what sort of flavor we're about. If you like us, come on in. We're not going to charge you. Take a seat and let's see what we can do together. Until then, next Thursday, 4 o'clock at the bell. Me and somebody will be here. Lily was down again this week. She is feeling better, but she's still scratchy, actually more coughing than anything else. And that's always annoying for everybody, including her. So be better, Lily. We do miss you. Pookie's doing a great job filling in for you, but
it's just not the same.
It's not the same smell.
Yeah.
No, there's a different aroma. Thank you, Pookie. I definitely appreciate you being here. I learned so much watching your chart, and I really do. It's like watching someone else make spaghetti. We all make spaghetti. And if you watch 10 people, you can come up with 10 different ways to make that spaghetti. So it's not the same way every single time. And then one day you got a special sauce, a secret recipe that works, and everybody loves it. And that's what I think you got, Pookie. You got secret recipe. And you're sharing it. And I love it, dude. I love it. So thanks for being here.
Yeah. Actually, really quick, here's another example, by the way, of just the difference that patience can make. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I know you say goodbye. But this is why we wait. And this is the kind of stuff that we look for, because this is how you get those big profits. So if you want them, wait for those setups, guys. Yeah, sorry. Just all you have to do is just be patient. 90% of this is learning how to sit on your hands. And if I could go back in time and tell myself anything, it would be that. Just wait. Just be patient. Don't throw your money at the market, and don't hijack streams and talk for an hour after it's over. So, all right. I had a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. We'll see you next week. And who knows who'll be here, but they're all good people. So we're all going to have a good time. Take care, folks. And remember, what do I always do?